What is a scientist? A scientist is a person who loves to figure out why things happen and how things work. There are all sorts of scientists. For example, biologists study living organisms, geologists study rocks, and meteorologists study weather. You can be a scientist too. How? Well, start by observing. Do you know what that means? Observing means noticing or seeing. We mostly use our eyes to observe the world around us. You can also use your ears, nose, and hands to hear, smell, and feel the world. Take 10 seconds to observe where you are. Now that you have practiced observing, do you have questions about what you saw? I bet you do. Scientists also have questions about the things they observe. Then they take those questions and do research to find the answers. I encourage you to look for answers to your questions. Maybe you'll find them in books, or online, or just from someone else you know. It's good to ask questions. Are you ready to practice being a scientist? In today's activity, you're going to train your brain to observe, wonder, and ask questions just like a scientist does. Scientists often make drawings of their discoveries, not just because drawing is fun, but also because it helps focus your brain. So, today, you'll be drawing and observing something you see every day to see if you can discover something new or surprising about that thing. As you draw, your challenge is to come up with as many questions as you can. Gather your supplies. Depending on your comfort level, choose one of the two I Wonder handouts. If you're comfortable writing, use the I Wonder sheet with the sentences box. Otherwise, choose the other sheet. You can use any object that you have around you for this activity. I'm choosing to use my hand. Even though I see my hand every day, I don't look at it really closely. I'm going to use the hand I don't write with so that I can draw. Look at your hand closely. Carefully look at the top and bottom. Bend your fingers. Watch how they move. If you're using another object, examine it carefully from all angles. Are there moving parts? Observe how they move. Now we're going to help our brain focus by drawing what we see. It's tempting to make your drawing really pretty or wanting it to be perfect, but that's not the goal here. The goal is to observe your hand closely and think of questions you might have. Put your hand down in the middle of the Wonder page, then trace your hand, like this. Think of at least one question that you wonder about your hand. You can write the question on your Wonder page or tell it to someone helping you with the activity. Questions begin with words like why, how, and what. To help keep track of all the questions you think of, draw an arrow connecting your question to the part of your hand that it's about. If you didn't write your question down, just draw a question mark, and then an arrow connecting it to the spot on your hand. Let's get into the details. Look at your fingers really closely. Notice all the bumps, lines, circles, dots, any little details. You're going to add those details to your drawing. As you're doing this, you'll be thinking of more questions. Be sure to write them down or tell your helper. Sharing what you notice with others can give you new ideas. Talk about what you see in your drawings. Do you have questions that are the same? What questions are different? Write down or tell your helper the most interesting new questions that you discussed. Let's zoom in more on our hands. Circle the part of your drawing that includes one part of your fingernail. Then, draw a line that connects that circle to the magnifying glass on the page. Look even more closely at this fingernail. You can use the magnifying glass that came with your activity packet. Draw what you see inside the magnifying glass on the paper. If you think of any questions, remember to write them down or tell your helper. How many questions have you been able to come up with? If you wrote them down, count them and write the number in your curiosity counter. If you told them to your helper, count the question marks and put the number in your curiosity counter. Think about which question, out of all these questions, you'd like to investigate further. You can write down your favorite question on the line sheet in the activity packet, or simply circle the question on your I Wonder sheet. Today you do something ordinary to help you observe closely and think of questions. Thinking of questions is the first step to learning new things. As an extension activity, you can make the curiosity wheel included in your packet. Here's how to make it. Cut along the dotted lines on pages 1 and 2. You'll end up with a rectangle and the spinner wheel. Use a pencil to poke a small hole in the center black circle on both pages. Place the cutout spinner on top of the cutout rectangle. Line up the pencil holes. Place a brad, found in your packet, through the holes. Spread the prongs of the brad to secure the spinner to the rectangle. And if you want, you can glue the whole thing in your science notebook. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this activity. Be sure to sign up for next week's program where we're going to Zoom with a scientist.